Let's get more now on the US review of the AUKUS agreement with Australia and the United Kingdom. Dr. John Blaxland is a professor with the Strategic and Defence Studies Centre. Good afternoon to you, John.
Hello, Ros. Good to be with you.
So what's your reaction to news of this review?
So, it's one of those things that makes great headlines, but I think on balance, we need to remember that Britain's conducted a review as well, only recently concluded, and they decided categorically that they not only were prepared to support it, but wanted to double down on it. The US Secretary of Defence has been outspoken in support of the alliance with Australia. His Deputy Secretary, Elbridge Colby, has been more critical of AUKUS in particular, and that relates in particular to the concerns over the manufacturing production rate of the US assembly lines for nuclear propulsion submarines. And Australia's put down $500 million to help facilitate the acceleration of that and the refurbishment of that production line. But yes, it's certainly generated a lot of media interest. It's a classic headline, and there's a lot of people catastrophizing out there. I think that's a bit misplaced.
Okay. Well, John, critics of the deal say that it could undermine US security because the US Navy is struggling to produce enough boats and submarines in particular to meet its own needs, let alone ours as well. Is that a valid criticism?
So I think there is something to that. The thing is that Australia is a good deal for the United States. My late great colleague Des Ball called Australia the suitable piece of real estate. Now, he was talking about the Joint Defence Facility at Pine Gap, but I think it also applies to the Perth submarine base or Coburn Sound or HMAS Stirling. At the height of the Second World War, it housed 170 Allied submarines interdicting enemy shipping throughout Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean. It's one of the reasons why the Thai-Burma Railway had to be built, because the Imperial Japanese Navy couldn't transit through the Malacca Strait safely because of the interdiction by Allied submarines. So the geography is still the same. Of course, the acute geostrategic significance of that real estate is back on the boil, if you like. It's back in vogue. So the convenience of Perth for the United States is significant. And for the United States, who've already promised, as a nation to Australia, and Australia having already made a down payment, it's hard to see how the United States could realistically pull out of this. And I don't think that's really on the cards. The review is reasonable, but what happens next? That's the question. What's the deal going to look like?
Okay. But if the AUKUS deal remains in place, but it is adjusted, is different in some way, a deal is done. John, does Australia need some sort of backup plan to AUKUS, or do we just need to adapt? But could we lose out financially from that?
So, look, there isn't a backup plan. There's no submarine production line waiting for an Australian order. And something most pundits don't seem to have quite cottoned on to is that diesel-electric submarines don't quite cut it for Australia anymore. And it's not because diesel-electrics aren't any good. It's because the environment's changed. Now we have almost saturation low Earth orbit satellites, coupled with 30-plus years of pattern analysis, coupled with artificial intelligence and drones. It means the wake of the funnel recharging the batteries with the diesel engines can be detected from overhead. Now, to transit between Perth and any other capital city, you've got to do it a dozen or so times, right? So that's about 12 points of exposure of vulnerability. And of course, why do we have submarines? Because they're stealthy. So if you're not stealthy anymore, pack up and go home. And of course, the way around that is to stay underwater. And the only way effectively to do that for the great distances you have between our capital cities, let alone going somewhere else, for crying out loud, just to get to Darwin, you've got to stay underwater. The only way to really do that is nuclear propulsion. And that's what we've committed to. That's what the United States are committed to. This is a reasonable review. I think we need to just not panic. The sky isn't falling. It looks a bit stormy, but I think we've got enough cards on the table, if you like. We're invested enough in this. We've got $500 million down payment already. There's more coming in the pipeline. Who knows? Maybe we might accelerate that. We'll do something that will make the Trump administration look like they're getting a deal. They're already getting a deal, but let's see how it's spun.